scriitoare și mama a 3 copii de succes. Maye Musk și-a lansat recent cea mai nouă carte și în România. Urmăriți un interviu cu femeia care la 75 de ani spune că are o viață fabuloasă. Good evening and thank you very much for this opportunity. It's really an honor for us.
Good evening, and I'm very excited about this interview.
So first I want to talk a little bit about your book, of course. How did you start writing this book? I've seen that for your first book, you've received a lot of feedback and help from Elon, Kimball and Tosca. It was the same now for this book also?
Yes, it was, because I was asked to write this book, and I kept on saying, I don't have any stories for you. You can see that on social media, I'm perfect. I have no stories for you. And so then there was a demand, and people kept on asking. So then about your struggles. And I say, I don't want to. You don't, as a woman, you really don't want to share any of your struggles. Then I dictated it. You dictate it, and then it gets transcribed. So then you don't type everything. And then I went through it with my publisher, and I said, let's just take out the struggling parts because they're too sad. And she wouldn't. So then it just seems that women are relating, and men too. Actually, I have had a lot of men buy my book too, but they are relating because women are suffering a lot in this world, and that's how the book came about.
But it helped you to talk so openly about your struggle. Did it help you?
Well, it helps me not to make the same mistakes, because I made the same mistakes many times in my life.
I understand.
Yeah, so, but then of course now in the end it's going very well for me.
Great. Reading your book, I was first amazed by your childhood. I invite all the people to read carefully the parts when you are speaking about how you and your family would sleep in the desert for 3 weeks, year after year. That was basically your summer vacation. How do you think these wild experiences shaped you?
Well, it was actually our winter vacation because it's the southern hemisphere. So it was July. And because if you come in the summer, then there's floods and rain, and it's too hot. So in the winter, it's very dry. And we would go across the desert. My mother would pack 3 weeks supply of water, petrol, and food. And I mean, can you imagine doing that with 4 kids and then again with 5 kids? So you don't admire your mother until you realize what she went through, and I think that's very common. We just expect everything to be done for us nicely by our mothers. And then we would sleep on the ground, because where else do you sleep? There's nowhere to sleep. And with a sleeping bag, and then you zip it up so that the hyenas don't bite off your face. And then you always shake your shoes so that you get the scorpions out. And, when you sleep on the floor, on the ground in the desert, afterwards, everything is a luxury. So when I would be in a 1-bedroom apartment with my children or in a rent-controlled apartment, it had a roof over my head. And that means I was privileged and I was living in luxury. So it does give you a different outlook on life.
You were a different kind of family, weren't you?
We were very different.
You talk about this in your book a lot.
Yeah, no, we were very different.
Your book is the kind of book that you read with a smile on your face. The voice is very optimistic, I mean most of the parts, because there are some tragic ones too. How can you have this power, this energy to move things around decade after decade?
Well, the thing is, I always felt like I was fortunate because I had good health. And that's a huge thing to be in good health. And then I was well educated. I had a happy upbringing, and that's a big privilege. And then I graduated as a dietitian at 21. And so I just felt I had many advantages in life. And then of course, I found out about violence, and I didn't know that existed. And now it seems like it exists worldwide. And I just want women to get out of a bad situation quicker than I did.
Talking about violence, here in Romania we have many victims of domestic violence. This has been and still is a huge problem for our country. You are an extraordinary example of how a victim abused by her husband turned her life and succeeded. What advice would you give the women who are in an abusive marriages right now?
Well, first of all, you should speak to your family, and then you should tell your friends, and they need to support you to get away from the situation. Either the men need to speak to the man in your life who's being aggressive, or you need to move on. And it is scary. You have no confidence. You don't know what, you won't have much money, and how are you going to survive? And you just need to start planning it and say, how can I survive? Now, after my mother found out that I was being beaten up, she said to my then husband, you touch her again and she's leaving you. And the weird thing was that he listened to her. He might have verbally abused me day and night, always insulting me, but he couldn't hit me. And it gave me a lot of power, because I said, I can go and take the kids to visit friends and he can't stop me. And I can wear clothes that people can see my arms because they weren't bruised. So you see, you go through, you need to talk to your family and your friends and get help.
I would ask you to tell us the story behind the title of your book, A Woman Makes a Plan. I know the story because I read the book, but for those who didn't yet, what is it with the plan?
This is a common saying among the Afrikaans people in South Africa. It's called 'n boer maak 'n plan. And that means a farmer makes a plan, because if you are farming, everything goes wrong and you always have to make a plan, and it doesn't go right, you have to make another plan. So if you're in a bad situation, 'n boer maak 'n plan. And so that's what my publishers said. It's a woman makes a plan. And I said, but it's actually a farmer makes a plan. And they said, women need the book more than the farmers.
Yeah, like you said, the plan doesn't always work. Like you said in the book, for example, when you moved to New York, you signed with a big agency and things weren't going so well. How did you deal with this?
That was very hard, because they were saying that nobody wants to work with me. And yet I would go to places and they say they've been trying to book me, like in a restaurant or just to visit friends. They've been trying to book me and you're not available. And I said, I haven't worked for 6 months. I am available. But the agent, then I found out from an agent who was fired that the agent who was in charge of all the bookings found that I was competition to her other models, and she had to keep me out of the market. Now, my daughter, who makes movies, she says that happens with actors. If you see an actor come and he looks like another male actor, you book him, you sign him on, and you keep him out of the business. So that's what she was doing to me, and it was very, very painful, because I didn't know what I was doing wrong.
You've been talking about your kids so nicely. They seem to be very responsible kids, but I'm sure they sometimes did things that annoyed you, didn't they?
Well, the funny thing is, I worked such long hours that they didn't really have that chance to annoy me. And I can't remember getting annoyed with them. My children had to have good manners and be considerate of others and be considerate of me working long hours. And they were, but they do. I remember recently they said to me, actually, we did get up to mischief. We would go and visit friends without telling you. And I said, wow, how would I know? Because I had an office in my home. And because, then you just make a bedroom into an office, because I couldn't afford to rent an office. And I was always there, but I didn't always know where my kids were.
I've read in your book that you wanted to raise your kids in a very realistic way. You involved them in your life, your business. You didn't check their homework. You said in the book that you wanted to prepare them for reality. What is your opinion about the parents nowadays that tend to protect and controlling kids the kids in all kind of ways.
Yes, we see, my parents made us very independent too, because they worked long hours and we always had to get ourselves to school, come back, do our own homework, do our sports, whatever we did. And they didn't check in on us at all. So it made it good. And I have great brothers and sisters, so that was obviously a good idea. And I know when somebody was sitting next to me and said, I want you to talk to my 19-year-old son. He really should study medicine or law, and he doesn't want to. He wants to be a singer-dancer. And I turned to him and I said, do you want to be a singer-dancer? And he said, I really do. And I said to her, let him be a singer-dancer. And then when later on he can study, if he decides he doesn't want to anymore. Well, she said, that's not the answer I wanted. And he was smiling so much. So again, let the children choose the way they want to go. And if they make mistakes, which we all do, then they be responsible for the mistakes and they can change what they want to study or what work they want to do.
You have very successful children. What impact do you think your parenting had on their development as successful persons?
Well, as you know, I'm a dietitian and I would see patients all day. And then when I could change their eating habits so that their blood glucose or their cholesterol levels or their blood pressure would reach normal levels, the patients were very happy. And so I worked long hours and I was making people happy, doing good things and helping them to eat better. In the same way, all three of my children have chosen careers that will make other people happy and makes them happy. And it's what they really love to do. So that's what we should encourage.
You seem so involved in the family life. How are your grandchildren like?
My grandchildren are fabulous. And I do remember once that, when my daughter's twins were about 5 years old and I had to look after them because she had to shoot a movie early that morning, they said, can we have breakfast? I said, no, you make me breakfast. Bring me the yogurt and the cereal and the dish. And they said, but usually mommy makes. I said, yeah, but I'm your grandmother and you will bring me my breakfast and then you will clear the plates away. And they did it for a few days. And the next thing, my daughter's up in the morning for them. And she says, what's happened to my kids? They're getting me breakfast. So they like to have responsibility.
That's very beautiful. What is the most common behavior you see in the most successful people?
They work long hours and they're doing the work they love.
What is your favorite failure and what did you learn from it, if you can tell us?
Yes, you have a lot of failures along the way. I wanted to do corporate nutrition and I even made the brochures and all that. And I couldn't convince the CEOs that a dietitian can help people eat better. So that was a little bit of a failure, but I was doing so much other stuff that it was going fine. You just have to try new things all the time, but you don't succeed at everything.
In your book, there are a few chapters dedicated to nutrition. So what do you eat to keep yourself looking so good? Ageless, I would say.
Yes, well, as a dietitian, I follow science and common sense. And the Mediterranean diet is considered the best diet to reduce your risk for chronic diseases. In other words, it's fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat dairy, and some meat, fish, and chicken. But and it seems simple, but then you get people start eating pizzas and cookies and chocolates, and of course I would too, and then I would gain weight. And then when you change the eating habits, they can still eat the foods they like, but they can lose weight if that is their issue. And most of my patients, they needed to lose weight. So just follow, eat the foods you love. Like if I don't like kale, that doesn't mean I'm eating badly. I can eat Brussels sprouts. So there you go.
You also raised your kids with those values about nutrition and health?
Yes, they know everything about nutrition.
I know that you really like to have fun, so in the end I would like to ask you to play a game. I have some
Okay.
random questions for you and you can answer very fast if you want.
Yes.
If you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would they be?
They'd be my three kids. We laugh so much and it's great fun.
That's so beautiful. What's the most unusual food combination you've ever tried?
You know, it was my nephew's wife from Brazil. She said she has a bread with cheese and jam. And I thought, I'd never had that together. I always had cheese and tomato. So now I love cheese and jam together with crackers or on bread.
If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I would say it's milk, although I wouldn't have a long life because it's still short on iron. So, but I do love my milk.
What is the common lie you tell people? The
That I'm
most common.
75 and they don't believe me. But I am,
I
and I'm loving it.
understand why.
They think I'm lying.
If you would have to move again, where would it be?
I guess I haven't visited Romania yet, so I need to leave that question open for a while. But I did have dinner with a friend last night from Romania, and she's determined that I come to your beautiful country.
Thank you very much. What planet would you like to see right now?
Well, I guess it'll have to be Mars.
Of course. If a magazine would ask you to shoot a nude again, would you do it?
No, I don't think so. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I shot those two covers of magazines. One, they were for health, so health reasons. But you actually wear nude underwear, but it does. Of course, they can Photoshop that out. But I still don't think it's necessary for me to do that again. That's fine.
Have you ever fall on the runway?
I haven't, I've seen models fall, but especially in front of me, and then I make sure I walk even more carefully.
In the end, I can only ask you one more thing. What's your next plan?
Well, I've got a lot of travels coming up for speaking engagements and for modeling, and I'll be seeing my kids, and one of my granddaughters has a birthday, so there's quite a bit of family stuff in August, and then on the road again, flying around the world, mainly giving talks, but also for modeling jobs.
Thank you very much. You are a really inspiring woman, and I think every girl and woman from here can learn something from you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.
And
Have
I
a
love
good evening.
the
Thank
interview.
you. Bye bye.
You really are good.